Everybody, hello and welcome back. It's been a while since my last stream. I've been busy at work. It is the festival season, and one update I have for you today. The Church of Scientology, despite the local council not being happy about their massive erection, the huge marquee that they build on their St Hill compound site, the UK headquarters for the International Association of Scientologists event every year. Despite all of that, despite the council not liking it, and despite the council issuing several demands for them to apply for planning permission and the rejection of a lawful development certificate application, Scientology have gone ahead and started building the tent anyway. Are we really surprised? I'm not sure we are. We know that this is how Scientology operate, but I thought I would bring you this news, share you some pictures that I've got from the site, and a little bit of information about the planning laws that are applicable here in the UK. But first, let's say hello to everybody in the chat. We have some new members on board. Thank you so much for joining. We have Professor Khan here saying, hi, yo, hello. Once a witness, Vernon saying hello. With a question here, Alex, have you gotten the new Dianetics 75th anniversary book? Yes, I have. And if you check out my channel, the last live stream I did was all about the 75th anniversary edition of Dianetics. Go and check it out if you haven't already. Nancy Jane, we just can't keep anything from Alex Barnes-Ross. Way to go, Apostate. Thank you so much. SP Crusader Leany is in the house saying, welcome to the chat. Please remember to like and subscribe. Absolutely. Hey Hon Puds, Becky Big Brother fan. There are lots of people in the chat. Thank you so much for it. Hans Christian Schwartz is here. Thank you so much. And welcome everybody. All right, let's have a little look at some of the pictures. These are pictures that were sent in from a viewer or a reader of Scientology Business, my blog. Just the other day, a local resident sent these in. Drone pictures from above St. Hills. The St. Hill is the UK headquarters of the Church of Scientology. And as you can see here, this is the castle. Over here on the right-hand side, I don't know if you can see my mouse, but here is where the OT materials are delivered. This is where you find out about Xenu, the overgalactic warlord that dropped H-bombs on volcanoes 75 million years ago. And this building was built by slave labor provided by the Church of Scientology back in the 1960s. They didn't have planning permission to build this castle, actually. Scientology don't have the best reputation when it comes to planning laws. L. Ron Hubbard wanted to build a new extension to the manor house, which you can't quite see in this picture, but it's down here on the bottom right hand side, and because he wanted to deliver more Scientology services to the people of East Grinstead, and because there were so many people flocking to St. Hill, he needed this new building, and Mid Sussex District Council didn't give them permission, so he decided to build a castle because he found some antiquated law that said something along the lines of you can build a castle, a man can build a castle on his own land, and so he circumvented planning laws that way. And that's how we got the castle. And of course, it was built by children who were all in the Sea Organization. Danielle Chamberlain is one of those people who I've had on my channel many times before. She's a good friend of mine. And she was forced to lay foundations and brickwork for this castle as a kid, working for the Church of Scientology. So they absolutely have used slave labor before. And that's how they built this massive building. And in the background here, you can see this big brown patch of land is a field. It's normally green because there's grass in the field, as one might expect. However, as you can see now, there is a trackway being laid, the grass has been removed, and this is where the big marquee is built for the IES event. Here is another view, just so that you can see the scale of this unwanted erection. It is huge, and in fact, it dwarfs the castle. It actually works out to be about 45,000 square foot. It is a massive tent that they are about to build, and as you can see here, the trackway is there, which means this is the precursor to the construction. Here are some pictures of the trackway from the ground. These were taken by a local resident who was going for a walk in the local area and stopped by on the footpath, the public footpath that borders the St. Hill property. And you can see here two very large tractors or forklifts, large heavy machinery being used. And now this is a problem because the Church of Scientology's UK headquarters, St. Hill Manor, is located in an area of outstanding natural beauty. That means the planning laws, the restrictions on building stuff are a lot tighter in this part of the world. A lot more attention is given to the local environment, the local community, the trees, the nature in the area, because it is an area of outstanding natural beauty. It's a lovely part of the natural world. It's rural countryside Sussex, and people don't want construction work happening there that's going to be a blight on the local environment, and they don't want construction work that's going to damage the local wildlife, for example. All of these things are considered when you apply for planning permission for building something in Sussex in an AONB. But all of these things have been completely ignored by the Church of Scientology because they have failed to apply for planning permission. Now, to give you a little bit of context, a bit of backstory for those of you who are new to the channel or who haven't been following this very closely, last year, Mid Sussex District Council issued a planning contravention notice against the Church of Scientology. They said that the 45,000 square foot marquee that Scientology had erected in their back garden was not something that they were happy about. It is a contravention of the planning laws. The council issued this notice and said, you need to apply for planning permission next time you want to build this marquee. Now, UK planning law allows for small structures that are temporary in nature to be built on your land. For example, if you want to put up a small gazebo in your back garden because you want to have some friends around and you want to have a party or something, or perhaps you want to construct a very small shed in your garden that's perhaps a couple of meters squared. You don't need to apply for planning permission for such things because they're temporary, they're small, they're within the limits that are considered reasonable. The limit is 100 square meters for temporary structures. Even if the structure is only there for 24 hours, if it is larger than 100 square meters, you need to apply for planning permission. Scientology's marquee is about 4,250 square meters or 45,000 square foot. So even if it was there for 24 hours, Scientology would need to apply for planning permission. And they simply haven't. They didn't last year, and the council said you need to do that this year before you build the marquee. Scientology subsequently submitted an application for a lawful development certificate instead of applying for planning permission. Their excuse was this building has been in place for 10 years or more, and therefore they don't need planning permission because there is an exemption to planning law which says if you get away with building something and it's been there, the structure has been standing on your land for 10 years and there's been no objections, there have been no planning contravention notices, there's been no enforcement, then it's been grandfathered in. You're allowed to keep the building. Scientology said that they've been using this marquee for 10 years or more consistently and continuously, and therefore they don't need to apply for planning permission. That application was rejected by Mid Sussex District Council because they said the marquee is temporary in nature. It's only there for a couple of months. It takes 6 or so weeks to build. It's used for a weekend and then it is removed. The whole thing is up for about 3 or 4 months of the year. It's not in consistent, continuous use. It's not a permanent structure, and therefore that 10-year rule exemption does not apply. And so Scientology's application for a lawful development certificate was rejected, and Scientology were once again advised they need to apply for planning permission. Have they done that? Well, the pictures suggest no, because as I was just showing, here is the trackway being built, and here is the signage along the property perimeter. I must say that the company name, got to give them props for that. The Marquee Group. That's hilarious because in the UK, a large tent like this is called a marquee. And this is just funny. So shout out to the Marquee Group. Great company name. However, you can see here the signage is up. Construction site. Unauthorized entry is forbidden. You have to wear PPE, safety helmets and boots, high-vis jackets and so on. And you can see here, heavy machinery being used, which is only going to damage the local wildlife and environment, which is a serious matter of concern, especially when it comes to an area of outstanding natural beauty. And here's another picture of some more heavy machinery parked up on the trackway that has been laid. I also delved into the premises license of St. Hill and found that a few years ago they supplied this diagram which shows the sheer scale of this property. So you can see on the top left here, this is the castle, and you can see the dimensions of the main hall, and the fact that they're building 3 marquees here. Obviously, 2 are shown here, and there's a third one that they've since added in the years after this was submitted down to the bottom of this here. And you can see the trackway here that is installed and the reception that goes from the back of the castle into the tent. Now, this was submitted in 2009 by Arena Structures. So it appears Scientology have changed the supplier of the tent because they're now using the Marquee Group as evidenced by this picture. But nonetheless, it gives you an idea of how huge this structure is. And the pictures are very, very clear. This marquee is now under construction, despite the council saying you need to apply for permission for it. Now, why are they doing this? It's because Scientologists use the W word. I'm not going to say it because it is grossly offensive here in the UK, but it's spelt WOG. It is a slur that was significantly used mostly in the 50s and 60s, I understand, is when it came into popular use. And it is a racial slur that Scientologists use with a different meaning. They use it to refer to any non-Scientologists. So if you are a planning officer or are a local councillor, you are considered a WOG in Scientology. And they refer to law enforcement, police officers as WOG law, for example. They look down upon local government, they look down upon planning law, they look down upon the local council, the police, the judicial system, because they believe that the Scientology system of ethics is superior to the WOG law. They believe that they have the real solutions and they are the only ones that are going to be able to help mankind and planet Earth. And for that reason, everything else is inferior to them. And that's why they believe that the legal system is something that should be used and manipulated to their advantage. They don't feel they need to apply for planning permission because they're above planning permission. That is their mentality. And that is why they are going about it in this way. They don't care about the impact they are having on the local environment. They don't care about the local community or the road traffic issues or the safety problems that have all been highlighted in the past by this IAS event. They don't care. All they care about is raising as much money as humanly possible, regardless of the consequences. And that is the goal of the IES event, which is the largest fundraising event in the Scientology calendar, especially here in Europe. People travel from all over Europe to attend this event. Thousands of Scientologists fly or drive over the channels using the Eurostar or on a ferry. They come over to this island and they flock to St. Hill to hear Captain David Miscavige speak. They part with vast sums of their money and they leave. And that is all done within this marquee that is currently now under construction. And it's all something that local residents do not like, they do not approve of, they're not happy about, and it is all in contravention to the local planning laws. So I really sincerely hope that Scientology stop the construction of this tent because it is only going to damage the local environment. Now, what's really important to consider with this is that planning applications take time. It takes, on average, 6 to 12 weeks for a planning application to be processed in Sussex. And this would definitely be considered a complex case. It's not straightforward because there are so many things at play here. Area of outstanding natural beauty, the sheer scale and size of the structure, the number of people entering and leaving the property, the fact that it is going to be built and taken down every year. Lots of things here have to be considered, lots of people have to be consulted, and so it is more likely that this application would take 8 to 12 weeks. Now, bear in mind, legally, you're not supposed to start construction until after you have got planning permission. Even if Scientology were to apply tomorrow, they would not be getting planning permission in time to then start building the tent in time to hold the event in October. They would have to start building the tent in October or November and therefore hold the event in December because it takes 4 to 6 weeks to build the tent. So they've royally messed up here. And it seems to me, by the fact they started laying trackway, that they don't care. And they are just going to start building the tent regardless and deal with the consequences. Now, let's have a look while we're talking about consequences, in fact, at what those are. But first, let's say hello to some more people in the chat and read some of these comments. Laura FM is in the house. Thank you so much for joining, Laura. Hi, Alex. First time watching with your new do. Thank you so much. Yes, I have indeed shaved my head. The hair is gone. It has happened. I am now 30 and bald. Kestrel42 says, go SPs. And then says, what will the council do? We're getting to that. Bear with me. That is the next point on the agenda. A. Jansen says they're not even trying to provoke the council. They just assume there will be no consequences. Absolutely. And if there are consequences, they literally don't care. Becky Big Brother fan says Scientology actually believes LRH policy is greater than any legality in the UK or anywhere on the planet. Absolutely. They believe their way of thinking, their way of doing things, their ethics system is superior, better, and more important than any law of any land in the world, and they will comply with the law of the land only when they are required to, because somebody's coming down on them or it's creating a PR disaster. Just look at the number of times people have died in Scientology as a result of doing the purification rundown, for example. Catherine Olsen in the house, doesn't really surprise me that they're going ahead with it. Absolutely, it doesn't surprise me either. I mean, it does and it doesn't. It surprises me that they have the audacity and they have such lack of due regard for the rule of law, for the local government, for the time and the burden this places on the very limited council resources. But it also doesn't surprise me because this is who Scientology are. This is what they do. This is how they operate. And that's why it's so important to educate councillors and government officials on their methods and their procedures, because this is what happens. Catherine Olsen says they would rather pay some huge fine than cancel the IES event that makes them millions. Precisely. But Catherine, you're going to love this next bit, because talking of making millions, what would the fine be if they were to proceed without planning permission? Let's have a look at the government website. This is the government guidance on planning enforcement. Now, as I'm sure you can imagine, this is a very complicated subject. There's a lot of information to read, and I am by no means an expert. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a planning consultant. The only knowledge I have of this is the research I've done on the gov.uk website, and I'm just going to read from that. So after a planning contravention notice has been issued, what can then happen if the construction still continues is the council can issue a stop notice. Now, what does a stop notice do? A stop notice can prohibit any or all of the activities which compromise the alleged breaches of planning control specified in the related enforcement notice ahead of the deadline for compliance in that enforcement notice. It cannot be served independently of an enforcement notice. Essentially, the council will say you need to stop doing what you're doing in terms of building. There are conditions, for example, how long it can take effect for and how long they have to inspect. And it also is considered, for example, if it's considered essential to protect an area of outstanding natural beauty, it can have stronger conditions attached to the stop notice. There are some things that it can prohibit, for example, building a house or using the land for a caravan have different restrictions, not really relevant here. But where it really gets interesting is when you look at the repercussions, because we all know Scientology would not listen to a stop notice and they would consider anyway. A person who contravenes a stop notice after a site notice has been displayed or the stop notice has been served on them is guilty of an offence. A person guilty of this offence is liable on conviction to an unlimited fine. In determining the amount of fine imposed, the court is to have regard to any financial benefit which has accrued or appears likely to accrue in consequence of the offence. So what that means is if Scientology are supplied a stop notice by Mid Sussex District Council and they continue to construct the marquee and hold their event irrespective of the enforcement, the council may be able to sue Scientology for the entire amount of money that was made at the IAS event. That is huge, because this is one of, if not the largest fundraising event in the calendar for the Church of Scientology. Tickets for the Patrons Ball alone generate $1.25 million or thereabouts for the church. And that's not even taking into consideration the amount of money people donate in addition to their ticket sales. So I would advise the council, it is absolutely in your best interest to enforce this on Scientology, because it is highly likely they will ignore any enforcement notice, and the council may be in for quite a big payday if that were to happen. But nonetheless, what is important here is that Scientology play by the rules. They are known to have not played by the rules in the past. They don't respect the rules, and so it's highly likely they won't. Obviously, the ideal outcome would be that Scientology stop building the marquee, stop damaging the local environment, apply for planning permission so that the consultations that need to take place do, and so they can assess the impact that this construction would have on the local environment and the community, and therefore a decision could be made on whether or not to approve the building. But that's not what will happen, because Scientology refused to do that. If Scientology had applied for planning permission 6 months ago, after they were served the planning contravention notice, they would have had ample time for that process to go ahead, and they probably would have got planning permission by now. But they have failed to do that. They've messed around. They've tried to play the system with this legal development certificate, and they've landed themselves in a situation where they now don't have the time to apply for planning permission and get it before the IES event. So what is extremely likely to happen is that they will go ahead anyway, and the council may be able to sue them for all of the money made. And I think this is going to be a fantastic thing as an observer to watch, as somebody who is going to protest outside the IES event, obviously, to raise awareness in the local community of the boulder dash kind of behavior that Scientology are engaging in. It's absolutely ridiculous. But let's have a look at some of these comments that we've been getting as I've been going through here. Amy M, why aren't they being stopped then? Well, these photos were only sent to me over the weekend, and I can assure you I have forwarded them on to Mid Sussex District Council, and we shall see what they do with it. It's only something that I've managed to get on top of in the last 24 hours. So only time will tell. But the council have already issued a planning contravention notice in the past. I would be very surprised if the council do not write to Scientology and request more information, at the very least, on the trackway that is being laid to the rear of their castle. Lisa Terry says, hi, Alex and chat. Hello. Thank you so much. Witnesses in the house. Kestrel42 says, so who is going to get the blame for drawing in this huge F up? I don't know. Maybe Janet or Graham. Hi, Janet. Hi, Graham. We know you watch these. I hope you're well. Kestrel said, could police block the street to prevent guests from arriving? I don't know is the answer to that question. I do know that the council would have the powers to go in and forcibly demolish the structure. But I understand that the requirement for that to happen is actually quite far down the line. And it's unlikely that the council would scrape together resources to do that before the marquee is actually deconstructed, because it's only a temporary structure. So I think we'd be looking more at a case of the council just seeking damages and seeking remuneration for the damage to the local environment that is caused through a court case after the fact. Tom Mortishire Smith says, very sorry I'm late, tuning in from Gothenburg, passed by the local church, no front, just a sign and a logo on the upstairs window. There we go. A. Jansen says, are marquee aware there is no planning permission in place? Maybe someone should tell them. Perhaps. Maybe someone should contact the Marquee Group and let them know. Tom Mortishire Smith says, is this the beginning of Marquee Gate? Perhaps it is. We had Hedgegate earlier in the year, and now we're talking about Marquee Gate. Witness says, known patterns and practices of behavior, Dave Miscavige of Justice, 100%. And this is the thing. What we are doing here is documenting a pattern of behavior. Scientology have no due regard for local planning laws, for the local council, for the authority that runs the local area. They have demonstrated this time and time again. Look at the PSPO, for example, the Public Spaces Protection Order. Scientology attempted to ban protesting outside St. Hill, outside the IES event, because they didn't like the fact that some people disagree with the abuse that is going on inside this organization. And at the very last minute, after the council had spent £84,000 investigating and looking at their case and corresponding with the church and its lawyers, They suddenly pulled the plug just days before councillors were due to vote on it. And that only pissed off the council even more. They wouldn't have done that if they actually had respected the council's authority and the effort and the time and attention that they had put into reviewing the PSPO. Fortunately, the council went ahead and voted anyway and rejected the application for a PSPO. They ruled in our favour as protesters, but it was a shining example of Scientology thinking they are above the law, that their time and resources are more valuable and important than other people's. And this planning situation is another example of that. Dragon Mad says, are the Marquee business Scientologists, I wonder? No, they're not, as far as I'm aware. Marquee are a group that supply huge marquees for massive events all across the UK. They are quite a large company, and as far as I'm aware, they're not owned by Scientologists. I'm sure I would have had some run-ins with them if that was the case, considering I work in events. Rachel Harris says, it's been a while since I've caught alive. I've been taking some time off and taking care of my own mental health. That's fantastic news, Rachel. Taking care of your mental health is so important. I'm glad you've had the time off that you need, and welcome back. It's good to have you here, but please do take all the time that you need. Verhoeven is in the house saying love it, Verhoeven. Thank you so much for your contribution. Bossy Tube, a tuber here, became a member. Thank you so much for supporting. If you guys want to support the channel and support me with all of this work that I'm doing, trying to raise awareness of Scientology's underhand tactics and fighting the council and all of this sort of stuff, the abuse that's going on, the protesting. If you want to support the channel and what I've been doing, please consider buying me a coffee using the PayPal links down below, but also pressing that thumbs up button and subscribing and commenting and sharing and all that sort of stuff. And if you are a local resident in and around East Grinstead, please do write to Mid Sussex District Council expressing your concerns about the heavy machinery, about the access to the site, about the impact that this construction has on the local environment and the local community. It is going to be a noisy situation with lots of heavy machinery coming and going from the property on St. Hill Road for the next 6 weeks or so. Then, just as the construction finishes, after a brief week or so of respite, you will then get thousands of Scientologists descending upon St. Hill to attend the event and part with vast sums of their money and hear Captain Miscavige speak. Then they will all disappear within 24 hours. The building will be taken down, another couple of weeks of construction work, and your local land will be left decimated and completely destroyed by this building and this construction work that is in an area of outstanding natural beauty. So if you're a local resident and you're concerned about this, please write in to your local councillor, write in to the council with your concerns, and hopefully we can see if something can be done about it. Verhoeven here coming back in with a comment. Councils are known to issue a stop notice if there is an illegal erection on the site and ask for a planning application which would be granted retrospectively. There we go. And what we have here is an illegal erection, an unwanted erection in St. Hill, and it is indeed coming, whether we like it or not. And all we can do is hope that the council do issue a stop notice. We want to stop Captain Miscavige's unwanted erection from coming here in East Grinstead in the UK. We want to make sure that the local environment is respected, that people are respected, human rights are respected, and that Scientology do not manipulate and use lies and deception to make money on this property, because that is what they are all about. That's it from me, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Please check out the article on Scientology Business, my blog, which the link to which is down in the description. I will be bringing more updates to you as and when I can. As I said, it is the festival season, so I am very busy at the moment. I also have to move house, as you can see behind me. My background will be changing in every live stream over the next couple of weeks because I am moving, thanks to Fair Game. Gotta love it. But that's it for now, guys. If you want to support the channel, press the like button, comment, subscribe, and buy me a coffee, PayPal, all that sort of stuff. And I'll see you on the next one.